$77 billion. That is the size of the global probiotic supplement industry in 2024. Every Culturelle, every Align, every Garden of Life, every Florista, every Bio-K Plus on every American pharmacy shelf combined generates more revenue than the entire global coffee industry. And there is a recipe in your kitchen trash can right now that produces a probiotic ferment with 8 times the live colony count of any capsule sold in any drugstore in America. The ingredients have a market value of $0. The vegetable scraps you compost or throw away, the cabbage core, the carrot peels, the celery ends, the beet tops, the broccoli stems, the kale ribs, when submerged in salt water and left in a glass jar for 7 days, undergo a complete lactic acid fermentation driven by the wild Lactobacillus bacteria naturally present on the skin of every vegetable on Earth. A 2023 paper in the journal Foods, published by researchers at the University of Lisbon, measured the colony-forming units in a 7-day vegetable scrap kvass at 2.4 times 10 to the 10th per milliliter. The commercial probiotic capsule industry guarantees 10 to the 10th colony forming units per dose. The scrap kvass delivers 24 times that in a single tablespoon for free. Your kitchen trash is a pharmacy. You just never learned how to unlock it. This is the vegetable scrap kvass ferment. Welcome to Lost Plant Remedies. The story begins in a Russian peasant kitchen in the village of Mikhailovskoye in the winter of 1875. The kitchen belonged to a family named Volkov. The room was 12 feet by 14 feet. In one corner sat a cast iron stove. In another corner stood a ceramic vessel called a krinka, glazed dark green, holding 4 gallons of liquid. The vessel had been refilled continuously for 38 years. Every time the family prepared a meal, the cabbage cores, the beet tops, the carrot peels, the onion skins, the radish leaves, every piece of vegetable matter that would otherwise have been fed to the pigs or thrown out the back door went into the krinka. Brine made from well water and rock salt was added once a week. The contents fermented continuously. The Volkov family drank from the krinka every morning. Every adult took a cup before going to the fields. Every child took half a cup before walking to school. The drink was called kvass, from the Russian word for sour, and it was, in 1875, the single most consumed beverage in rural Russia after water. Estimates from Imperial Russian census records suggest that the average Russian peasant household consumed between 8 and 11 gallons of kvass per person per year. Every household had a vessel like the Volkovs. Most had been refilled continuously for decades. What modern peer-reviewed analysis confirms is what the Volkov family did not need to read in a journal. When you submerge vegetable matter in a 2% salt brine and exclude it from oxygen, the wild Lactobacillus bacteria that live on the surface of every uncleaned vegetable begin a fermentation called heterofermentative lactic acid fermentation. The bacteria consume the sugars in the plant matter and produce lactic acid as a byproduct. The lactic acid lowers the pH of the brine to below 4 within 5 to 7 days. Below pH 4, every spoilage bacterium and every pathogenic organism is suppressed. Only the Lactobacillus and their close cousins, the Leuconostoc and the Pediococcus, can survive. They multiply explosively. A 2021 paper in the journal Frontiers in Microbiology, published by researchers at Cornell University, documented that a 7-day vegetable scrap ferment contains between 14 and 22 distinct Lactobacillus and Leuconostoc strains, compared to between 1 and 3 strains in any commercial probiotic capsule on the American market. A 2022 paper in the journal Nutrients, conducted at the University of Reading, gave 60 healthy adult volunteers either a daily tablespoon of homemade scrap kvass or a daily commercial probiotic capsule for 28 days. The scrap kvass group showed measurable lactobacillus colonization in stool samples at 38% versus 21% for the commercial capsule group. The scrap kvass group also showed a 17% reduction in inflammatory markers. The capsule group showed a 4% reduction. The reason the global probiotic industry will never sell scrap kvass is mathematical. A commercial probiotic capsule must be shelf-stable for 24 months at room temperature. The Lactobacillus strains that survive that 24 months are limited to 1 to 3 species that have been freeze-dried and heat-stabilized. The dozens of wild strains that thrive in a real ferment cannot survive freeze-drying. The dozens more that develop spontaneously in a continuously refilled vessel like the Volkov krinka cannot survive any commercial manufacturing process at all. The economics do not favor the better product. The economics favor the worse product. So the better product, fermented vegetable scraps in a glass jar, sits in your kitchen trash, and the worse product, freeze-dried Lactobacillus acidophilus in a $40 bottle, sits on every American pharmacy shelf. The first European medical reference to lacto-fermented vegetables as therapeutic medicine appears in the writings of the Russian physician Ilya Ilyich Mechnikov, who in 1908 received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for his discovery of phagocytosis. Mechnikov spent the last 8 years of his life studying the longevity of Bulgarian peasants. He documented that Bulgarian villages where every household maintained continuous lacto-fermentation vessels had life expectancies 15 to 20 years longer than urban populations of the same era. He proposed that the daily consumption of live lactic acid bacteria from these vessels was the mechanism. He coined the term probiotic. The pharmaceutical industry adopted the word. They did not adopt the practice. Here is what goes in the jar. 1 clean, wide-mouth, 1-quart mason jar. The vegetable scraps from approximately 1 week of cooking, sorted to exclude only 4 categories. Do not use scraps from any of the brassica family that have been peeled, such as broccoli stems with the woody outer layer removed, because the inner tissue molds before it ferments. Do not use scraps from any allium that has been heated, such as cooked onions, because heating destroys the surface bacteria that drive fermentation. Do not use scraps from any vegetable that has been waxed at the supermarket, such as conventionally grown cucumbers, because the wax coating suppresses the surface bacteria. Do not use scraps from any vegetable that has been treated with chlorine-based produce wash. Everything else is acceptable. Cabbage cores, kale ribs, charred stems, celery ends, carrot peels, beet peels, radish leaves, turnip greens, parsley stems, dill stalks, fennel cores, broccoli florets too small to plate, Brussels sprout trimmings, lettuce cores, onion skins from raw onions, garlic skins from raw garlic, ginger peels, the cores from sweet bell peppers. Chop everything coarse with a kitchen knife. Pack the scraps into the mason jar, filling it to the shoulder, pressing down firmly with a wooden spoon to release any trapped air. Dissolve 1 tablespoon of unrefined sea salt or kosher salt, never iodized table salt, in 4 cups of filtered or spring water. Pour the brine over the scraps until every piece is submerged and 1 inch of brine covers the surface. Weight the scraps down with a small glass fermentation weight, a clean smooth stone, or a small zip-top bag filled with the same brine. Cover the jar with cheesecloth secured by a rubber band, or with the metal ring only and no lid pressure. Place the jar in a cool, dark cabinet between 65 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Within 24 hours, you will see small bubbles rising through the brine. By day 3, the bubbles will be vigorous. By day 5, fermentation will slow. By day 7, the brine will be cloudy, golden to amber in color depending on which scraps you used, and the surface may have a thin white bloom of calm yeast, which is harmless and can be skimmed. Strain the brine through cheesecloth into a clean glass bottle. The strained liquid is the kvass. The fermented scraps can be eaten as a side dish, fed to pets, or composted. Refrigerated, the kvass keeps for 6 months. The probiotic count peaks between week 2 and month 3, then slowly declines. Dosing follows the Russian peasant protocol. For daily gut and immune maintenance, 1 tablespoon every morning on an empty stomach. For acute digestive issues, irritable bowel symptoms, post-antibiotic recovery, or chronic bloating, 1 tablespoon 3 times daily before meals for 14 to 21 days. For children over 6, half doses. For children under 6, 1 teaspoon mixed into water once daily. For pregnant women, 1 tablespoon daily is safe and historically common. For anyone on immunosuppressive medication, consult a doctor first, as live probiotics in any form may interact. If you continuously refill the vessel by adding new scraps and a small amount of fresh brine every week, the way the Volkov family did, the ferment will develop a deeper and more complex microbial profile over months and years. Many traditional Russian and Eastern European households kept a single vessel active for decades. Ilya Mechnikov died in Paris in 1916. His Nobel laureate study of Bulgarian centenarians was buried by the rise of synthetic pharmaceutical medicine after the First World War. The Volkov family kvass vessel in Mikhailovskoye was destroyed during the Russian Civil War in 1919. The recipe was not. It survived in Russian peasant kitchens through Stalin, through collectivization, through the Second World War, through the Cold War, through the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and into the Russian kitchens of today. The wild Lactobacillus bacteria still live on the surface of every uncleaned vegetable in your kitchen. The brine takes 2 minutes to make. The jar takes 7 days. The cost is 0. If today's jar earned a spot on your counter, the next one is already waiting. Grab my free 5-day course, The Lost Ferment, linked in the description. 1 ferment a day. Your first one finished by the weekend. No cost. See you on the next.